All right, that's all the time we have left. Let not your heart be troubled. Laura Ingraham is standing by. Big show tonight.
Hannity, was it on one of the elliptical machines and just happened to look,
How do you leave your phone unlocked? Because it locks automatically if you don't use it.
Hannity, I like to see you in leg warmers, spandex, on one of the, one of the elliptical things. How long you've done that, right? Step aerobics. You used to do that in the 80s.
Krav Maga, Kempo, Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, street martial arts. That's how I train. I'm not running on a stupid machine hours and hours, bored out of my mind.
I've got to say, I've seen your hand, and it's been broken, fingers broken with mixed martial arts. So
this
I can
is the
attest
latest.
To the fact.
If you look at it, this
it's
right
not
there.
a
If you want to pan in on it, this is the latest break.
Yeah,
I
that appendage
snapped
is
it
not
here
attractive.
when I hit somebody. Yeah.
No, that's not attractive.
It's full contact. It's a lot of fun. And
I'm afraid of you. That's all I know, and I'm not really afraid of anyone.
Why do you start in on me? I hand the show over nicely. Laura Ingraham has a great show, and this is what I get.
Well, agreed. By the way, I think you should come. No, Hannity, I think you should come to the studio one night on one of those painted horses, like Moore came in. Wouldn't that be fun in Manhattan? You just roll right down 6th Avenue. Come on, that would be. I want to see that.
Okay. And by the way, it's New York City. Every liberal in the world will be there. Good luck.
All right, Sean, you take care. All right,
have a good show.
All right, and welcome everybody to the Ingraham Angle from Washington. All right, last night we told you about some highly disturbing text messages about President Trump sent by the lead FBI investigator on the Mueller probe. Well, now we have our hands on more of this guy's texts, and they are even more troubling than we originally thought. Full details on this in just a moment. And also tonight, more fallout from the Alabama special election. Beware, though, the false conclusions being peddled about marking the end of Trump's agenda, Trump's political agenda, RIP. It's all bull. The real reasons to be learned from the Alabama Senate race are coming up in the angle. You don't want to miss that. And Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, wow, she says the president is bullying her. What? Plus, I'm going to go toe-to-toe with one of the Republican lawmakers who is pushing for a sort of immigration amnesty when it comes to the DACA kids. But first, our top story, the dramatic testimony today of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein before the House Judiciary Committee. Now, Mr. Rosenstein is the man who appointed Bob Mueller as special counsel to lead the Russia probe, and today he doggedly defended his choice, not really surprising. But even as these alarming pieces of evidence are emerging about the rank anti-Trump bias in the investigation. Now, we told you about some of it last night when we reported on the text between FBI agent Peter Strzok and his gal pal and colleague Lisa Page. She also works at the FBI. So in the text, Page calls then candidate Trump a, quote, loathsome human being, while Strzok referred to the future president as, quote, an idiot. I mean, that's kind of run-of-the-mill liberal stuff, right? But bear in mind, Strzok's the guy who led the Hillary Clinton email server investigation, so I'm sure he was really tough on that. And he interviewed Hillary in the one pre-4th of July interview she did. He interviewed Huma Abedin, okay? He's a busy man. And later, he was involved in the Russia probe. I mean, the guy is like Zelig. He's everywhere. But there's more. On August 15th of last year, Strzok texted Page, "There's no way Trump gets elected, but I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event that you die before you're 40. Now, my friends, it's one thing to have a political opinion. It's quite another thing for members of America's top law enforcement agency to discuss ways to prevent Donald Trump from being elected president. Now, we should note here that Strzok was removed from the Mueller probe after FBI officials became aware of these texts. But I say there must be more to the story, and today Republicans demanded real answers from Rosenstein.
What's it going to take to get a second special counsel to answer these questions and find out, was Peter Strzok really up to what I think he was?
An inspector general has 500 employees and a $100 million budget, and that's what he does.
What kind of text message did you have to see before you say it's time for a second special counsel?
We take very seriously the concerns of 20 members of this committee or one member of this committee, but we have a responsibility to make an independent determination.
Would you have any opinion on the lack of the fruit from the poisonous tree that might have been erased by Peter Strzok?
Well, as a legal matter, Congressman, I can tell you that if evidence is tainted, then that would raise a concern for me. But typically, our cases would be prosecuted based upon witnesses and documents.
How, with a straight face, can you say that this group of Democrat partisans are unbiased and will give President Trump a fair shake?
We recognize we have employees with political opinions, and it's our responsibility to make sure those opinions do not influence their actions.
This is not just political opinions. This is disgusting, unaccountable bias, and there's no way that could not affect a person's work. Were you aware of just how biased Mr. Strzok was?
No, I was not.
Joining us now for a reaction here in Washington, Republican Congressman Ron DeSantis. He's a member of that House Judiciary Committee. And in New York is James Freeman, assistant editorial page editor of the Wall Street Journal and a Fox News contributor. Congressman, that was wild there because you saw Rosenstein in this testimony today. And he looked both frightened and he was very defensive in supporting this probe, saying, look, he checks in with me, I check in with him, and it's all going to be okay. They're taking care of it. Were you convinced?
Well, no. I mean, you go back to when he appointed Mueller to begin with. He didn't even identify a crime. He said, oh, Comey's doing a counterintelligence investigation. Just go try to find something. So I think he made a mistake from the beginning. He criminalized politics, basically. Now he sees in the face of these text messages, we have the lead agent on Hillary who exonerated her. And then the lead agent on the Russia case saying, yeah, maybe he doesn't get elected. Yeah, we're talking to Andy McCabe's office, who's, by the way, the deputy director of the FBI. This is in the middle of the campaign. But we can't, the FBI, take that risk. We need an insurance policy to prevent Trump from getting elected. There's one thing to have a bias. There's one thing to have an appearance of impropriety. This is actually taking a bias and basically saying you're going to use the machinery of government to prevent the American people from making a choice. That's very disturbing.
James, you wrote about this today in the Wall Street Journal, and you noted that the Strzok email, when he raised that issue of the insurance policy, that really jumped out at you. Tell us.
Well, yeah, it goes way beyond having an opinion. It goes way beyond extreme bias or even hatred of the president and his supporters, which is what you see in some of these emails. It really is suggesting that there was action taken, that I think a reasonable reading of it is that these people kind of viewed their role as protecting America from the consequences of its political decisions. That's not their job. Their job is to enforce the law. Now, I think if there's a more innocent explanation of this, I imagine Mr. Strzok will have a chance to try and provide it. I think Mr. DeSantis may know better, but I would expect a number of subpoenas coming out of the House Judiciary Committee to talk to all of these people we've seen mentioned, showing their anti-Trump bias, their activism on behalf of the Democrats, and I think that this is topic A for future hearing.
Yeah, they look like they're, these are MoveOn.org kind of activists. Or it sounds like well, okay, it's almost a conspiracy inside the FBI to do something to stop this president or this candidate from gaining steam. And Congressman DeSantis, I want to talk to you on this. You want some of these people to be subpoenaed. The documents aren't as forthcoming as they should be, coming fast to the committee as they should be. But will you be able to get Peter Strzok to testify?
I think we will eventually. So remember, Bruce Orr is a high-ranking Justice Department official. He just got demoted because he was meeting with Christopher Steele, who Fusion GPS paid to do the Trump dossier before the election, and then meeting with Fusion GPS after the election. Oh, by the way, the guy's wife works, guess what, at Fusion GPS. So I think you have a confluence of a number of people in the Justice Department, a number of people in the FBI, knee-deep in the dossier. So, yes, we need to know How did they get the dossier? Did they pay for the dossier? Rosenstein wouldn't tell us whether your tax dollars were used for the dossier. So we need all of those answers. I think Strzok needs to come in. I think Orr needs to come in. I think McCabe needs to come in. And we got to put them under oath.
What kind of conversations are they having in the offices? Don't they have like bad guys to stop, like real criminals and real work to do at the FBI? But they're sitting around agonizing about whether Donald Trump will win the presidency, apparently. And they're like, oh, my God, he's the worst ever. And what if he wins? And we've got to stop it. And you Cape Crusader. What are you going to do? The whole thing is just, it's embarrassing for the FBI. So all of these people, and James, I want to hear from you. All of these people, Republicans and Democrats, who trotted out Bob Mueller as an unimpeachable arbiter in a special counsel prosecution or investigation. You could never question him because he was a Vietnam vet. He was bipartisan respect. I got to say, in watching this thing play out, I'm not impressed. I'm just not impressed with how he's handled this. I'm sorry. I'm not.
Yeah, it's hard to think of what team he could have assembled that would give his investigation less credibility. And you're talking about what they're talking about in the office. I mean, remember, these are careful, experienced lawyers. This is what they're putting in writing and text to each other. You can only imagine what they're saying about Trump and their plans for him when they're not recording it. But I think that also that discussion within the office, and it comes up in the context of them talking about the insurance policy, not sure what that means, seems to be some effort to keep Trump from being president.
FISA. That's what my gut is. It's a FISA warrant.
It raises the question, who else? Yeah. So we've been talking about Strzok and Page.
Lisa Page getting that FISA warrant, maybe pushing that FISA warrant. If I had to guess right now, it sounds like it's something out of Homeland or 24, the old 24 show. But it sounds like, all right, you go in and get the FISA thing. We'll monitor what the campaign's doing, and if we have to bring out the big dogs at FISA, we'll do that. I mean, the whole thing.
And given Strzok's job, he's probably the guy who would do that. I mean, get the FISA warrant, given his counterintelligence role. Who knows?
Exactly. Well, guys, let's bring in two legal experts for more reaction. Could there have been a conspiracy at the heart of the Mueller probe? When you really read these text messages, and we'll learn more from Raleigh, North Carolina, we're joined by Saul Weisenberg, who was the #2 attorney in Ken Starr's Bill Clinton investigation, and here in Washington, Scott Bolden, an attorney and Democratic strategist. Saul, let's start with you. You've been pretty much out there saying, well, Mueller is a good guy. He's running this investigation down the line. You've had some criticism, but do these new text messages of the lead investigator in this investigation, does it give you any pause?
It doesn't give me any pause about Mueller. It's extremely disturbing. That text that you talked about, the text from August where he talks about the insurance policy, is by far the most devastating thing that we have seen about how the Bureau behaved during the 2016 investigation of Hillary's emails. Now, I will say this about Bob Mueller. I never worked with Mueller. I've talked to many people about Mueller. I have many friends who worked for him. I have friends who worked with him. I have friends who worked over him. Whether they like him or don't like him, every single one of them defines him, talks about him as a very honorable man. But he's tone deaf, and he was naive here, very naive and/or tone deaf, and it's in the team he assembled. And let me tell you one thing that people are, one very important thing, sorry to interrupt, that people are forgetting about Strzok, and this was a mistake Mueller made. Strzok, even before these texts were found, never should have been assigned to the Trump investigation. The agent who was a top agent in the Hillary email investigation
makes no sense.
Never should have been assigned in the first place to that.
Well, here's what now, Scott, I want to ask you this. What I would, if I were Mueller, and it was all the scrutiny coming on the investigation, we had this Strzok, we have Jeannie Rhee, we have Andrew Weissman, we have this Bruce Orr character whose wife worked for using GPS. What I would do is I would either take a 2-week pause on the investigation and say, look, we're going to bring in not an independent counsel, but an independent arbiter just to go through all our staff and to make sure this is buttoned down now, so everyone has more belief in this investigation. Let's take a pause for 2 weeks. But he did not vet these guys for political agendas. And the appearance of a conflict, in my mind, is just as important as a legal matter as an actual conflict of interest here. This is the appearance of a conflict, and I don't believe Mueller did his job in vetting this team. You can respond.
Well, legally and from a DOJ regulatory standpoint, he doesn't have to do that, nor would it be legal for him to do that. That being said, a 2-week delay wouldn't get to the bottom of this. It's not a problem for you to have a political support or to have a political identity. You can't not hire someone because that's double negative, forgive me. You can't not hire someone because they are a Democrat or a Republican. You'd have nobody to hire. But until it becomes a political bias. Now, Strzok's emails are problematic. I'm a former prosecutor. I got to tell you, I've been involved on both sides on politically sensitive investigations. But look at what Mueller did. Mueller addressed it. He removed him from the investigation once he found out. And let's not forget, Strzok is not the only one making decisions, whether it's Hillary Clinton or whether it's Donald Trump. Yeah, of course he is. But you operate on documents, you operate on witnesses, and he's working with several other people under him and ahead of him. Doesn't mean the investigation is tainted. This is all conjecture you're talking about.
No. Conjecture? The guy is talking about an insurance policy to stop Donald Trump from becoming president.
And he was removed. What else would you have him do?
Well,
the Ethics Committee ought to investigate him, too, by the way. DOJ can investigate him.
Scott, why is the guy, as Saul, and you can jump in here, almost out of time, why is the guy who was Hillary's investigator in the Hillary email scandal, why is he hopping over to the Trump investigation?
Because that's not a conflict.
He never should have been. He never should have been.
I may not have made that decision, but it's not a conflict.
Hold on. Saul, go ahead.
He never should have been. He never should have been. He never should have been, because as soon as the Hillary email investigation was over, President Trump, then candidate Trump, and other Republican candidates started criticizing very, very harshly the FBI. So to put that guy who was harshly criticized before you knew about any of these texts, to put that guy then in charge of an investigation of Trump, the very man who's criticizing him, is a mistake. Now, Mueller didn't do that. That was another gift from Andrew McCabe.
Okay, if Mueller is the deal,
but wait a minute. Mueller should have taken him off. I've supported Mueller, but when Mueller took office,
I don't know why you're supporting Mueller all this time. I think Mueller is the most oversold person I've ever. He's like on Mount Rushmore for every Republican and Democrat. I've never heard more people say Bob Mueller. I mean, has he never made a mistake?
He's not perfect, but he's honorable. He's
exactly.
There are a lot of people
many
who are
Republicans
who have ended up doing really
praised him in his
stupid things for
selection.
the country. Well, I got to tell you
Laura,
this.
you're presuming something politically wrong with this.
Yeah,
and you don't have bias. You've got some facts, but you've got to investigate that and let ethics do that.
What I have, Scott?
But you don't have the bias there. And until that gets proven, there are no mistakes being made here.
We have to wait until the impeachment report is sent up to Capitol Hill. We're going to wait for that to find out that like 7 of them were sending text messages.
You can't presume political bias because of their political leaning.
He's not authorized to send an impeachment report. He's not even authorized to do that.
He's not even going to do that,
Laura, you're missing something really important.
That is really important.
That everybody is missing.
Go, Saul.
The role of McCabe. Andrew McCabe is behind a lot of this. He was deputy director and still is deputy director. He's the person whose wife got $700,000 from Terry McAuliffe's back.
I think all roads lead back to him.
He should not be in his position now.
Those are facts, but that's not the result.
This whole thing is one of the biggest scams ever. I'm sorry, guys. You're much more judicious than I am about that. No bias. No, it's all good.
No bias.
All right,
wait till you
and I are going to go tequila shots, and I'll get the real truth out of you. All right, gents, I appreciate it. In a moment, I'm going to reveal the real reason Roy Moore lost that Alabama Senate race and the lessons that need to be learned. Stay right there. Oh, there's a lot of finger pointing today, blaming the president, blaming conservative populism, blaming Steve Bannon or maybe Mitch McConnell for the fall of Roy Moore. The truth is the race had zero to do with substance and everything to do with salacious allegations and a deeply flawed candidate. And for those trying to use Moore's defeat to damn conservative populism, remember, the populist issues that Trump won on were literally, I don't think, no time when I peeked in on the election did I hear any of them discuss. Not immigration, not trade, not really tax cuts, not really deregulatory efforts. None of those things were ever really debated in the Alabama race. Now, a man that many believe could run against Doug Jones in 2020 said this on my radio show today.
There was no policy discussion in this election. There was no substance to this. There was no discussion of Trump's policies or Roy Moore's policies, and they did everything they could to make sure that Doug Jones' policies weren't discussed. It was all about scandal.
This was all about the allegations against Moore and, of course, his missteps. The volatile nature of this special election in Bama was a joke from its inception. Now, Luther Strange could have stayed in the seat until 2018, but once that special election was announced by the governor, Mitch McConnell and his pack rushed in and they protected, or tried to protect, Strange rather than just let the people duke it out, sort it out. Probably would have been a better path. Consultants for Congressman Mo Brooks were reportedly warned that they should not work against Luther Strange. Reports are they were actually threatened. Then there was the hokey-pokey quality of the president's involvement. First, the president put his right leg in for Strange, and then he took it out, and then he kind of put it in for Moore, and then he did a robocall. But still, the attempts to pin this whole loss on Trump, or his agenda certainly, are just ridiculous. It's predictable. Now, Alabama remains Trump country. Everybody I know lives there, friends for 30 years. People love Trump down in Alabama. The voters there are some of the most vocal anywhere on the issues that got Trump elected: immigration enforcement, lower taxes, of course, Second Amendment rights. And the bottom line is they just didn't like Roy Moore, the man, by the way, who lost the governorship there twice, and including coming in fourth against Robert Bentley, who was not exactly, Ronald Reagan in his personality or approach. Look, as Matt Drudge tweeted last night, just too much crazy and nerve-wracking times. There is a limit. Well, I agree with them. And I think the pinball machine hit tilt, and Alabamans just wanted the game to end, wanted it over. And also, Trump didn't win by being like Roy Moore. Remember, thinking back on the election, when you look at Roy Moore, you look at Trump and their approach, they are very, very similar. Trump was all about making America great again. Roy Moore was kind of about making Alabama grimace again. Now, here's the lesson for Republicans. You cannot fight everyone at once. You just can't. You can't take on the Democrats, the media, the entertainment industry, and the establishment of your party unless your candidate has the money and the bravado and the media savvy to win. That's what Trump did. But it's a rare skill set. Not many people have it. And that kind of hand-to-hand political combat demands candidates who are fearless. And they're unafraid to do interviews a month before an election. And I don't mean with a 12-year-old reporter, okay? You got to be able, if you're afraid of Good Morning America, you're probably not going to be able to beat your Democratic counterpart. And the other takeaway, by the way, is the critical need for Republicans to engage minority voters, especially in parts of the country that are traditionally hostile to the brand of the GOP. Think about it. In Alabama, 30% of the electorate were black voters, surpassing turnout for Obama and Hillary. So the GOP needs to reach out to this community. And we've been saying this, frankly, since Trump was inaugurated. Keep doing those kind of campaign-style events. Because remember when he went to that black church in Detroit during the election? You know, the people there, a lot of them probably didn't really agree with him. Maybe didn't even like him that much. But I'm telling you, you show up and you talk to voters, and they end up respecting you more. They know that you cared enough to show up just to hear their concerns. Republicans have to do this across the country. And then today at the White House, by the way, the president announced a black pastor to talk about his tax plan and what it can actually end up doing for the black community. This was good.
We represent a cadre of many families across the nation. African-American families, urban communities, and families all across need this now. And it's time for a change. And it's time that we recognize that our president is making good on his promises.
Now, you probably didn't see that in the evening news tonight. The last thing the left ever wants to see is a conservative preaching law and order and economic opportunity, entrepreneurship to the African-American community going into those areas. They don't like that. They want a monopoly on the African-American vote, and they've had it for a long time. But this, my friends, is exactly what is needed, and Alabama reinforces that big league. Well, I think the president gets it, though. So let's hope the Alabama race serves as a bit of a wake-up call to the rest of the party before the midterms, and that's the angle. Joining us now with reaction is former Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski, along with Ian Millhiser, a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress. Corey, let's start with you. Congrats on the book, big #1 on Amazon today. Very proud of you. Corey, this is all being pinned on Donald Trump. Donald Trump's failing. His popularity is at an all-time low. It's at 32%. His agenda's going down the tubes, and Alabama's conservative, but they're kind of done with Trump. That's what the left is wishing.
Well, and that's what the mainstream media has continued to say. You know, you saw the story that came out. 90% of the media coverage of Donald Trump on the 3 major networks have been negative. And what we know about the Alabama races, number 1, Roy Moore was a terribly flawed candidate. Number 2, the Republican Party was half in the race and half out of the race, and I fault some of that on the political operation of the White House. You know, what we see is you've got a U.S. senator who's from the state of Alabama who's saying, I'm not going to support this person. The Republican Party is in the race, then they pull out, then they go back in the race. Look, it's very difficult when you have a candidate that doesn't have support from everybody, and he was a fundamentally flawed candidate. He didn't talk about the issues that Alabama cares about. He didn't discuss illegal immigration. He didn't discuss coming to Washington and supporting the president's tax cuts. He didn't discuss saving the Second Amendment. He didn't discuss any of those things.
Oh, he fought.
And he gave
Well, what
no
he did,
one a reason to vote for him.
Corey, what he did was he kept saying, "Oh, Mitch McConnell, I'm going to go after McConnell." I mean, that's not the kind of bravado you want. You want someone who has a sober, smart approach to politics. And it was, you know, Drudge is on. He's a little crazy. He comes across as a little. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be uncharitable. I'm sure, it's maybe being uncharitable, but it came across as is odd. I mean, that interview with Hannity was odd. I don't think he acquitted himself well. My instincts, I'm sorry, but when I don't listen to my instincts, I usually get in trouble. My instincts was that it didn't ring true to a lot of people. And I think a lot of women felt like I felt after that.
And Laura, he took the weekend off before the election to go away with his wife. I mean, this is not what candidates do.
He'll have a lot of time to do
when
that
they're trying
now.
to run for office.
Yeah, let's get Ian in here. Ian, obviously a good night for Democrats, surprised to win that seat. But a rejection of Trumpism in Alabama. Are you really trying to sell that?
Well, you know, there are some very credible allegations against this guy. I think that alleged sex offender is not a trait that any party should look for in a candidate. I also think that if someone else who had multiple serious allegations of sex offenses against them were to run in 2020, that person would also have trouble with their reelection.
Well, you're talking about Trump?
Of course.
So you guys are banking on the fact that Al Franken's out of the way. I guess he's going to resign ultimately, right?
It looks like it. He said he will.
He said he will. So Al Franken's out of the way. Conyers is out of the way. There'll probably be other revelations in this slush fund. Maybe Democrats. There are more Democrats in these recent revelations than Republicans. And you think at that point the nation will just rally to these old allegations and say, okay, let's relitigate what we heard in October of 2016. Economy's booming, things are looking up, but let's get rid of Trump because of these old allegations, really?
I think
that's the Democrat platform?
I think that when you're talking about things like sexual assault or sexual harassment, we should take
He denies the allegations.
I think we should take the politics out of it. And, if you have multiple credible allegations, that person shouldn't be in high office.
If someone accused you of something from 20 years ago and you denied it, would you think it would be fair?
There are a lot of women.
Would it be fair for people to say, God, he's accused, and actually 3 women? What if you were innocent?
There are a lot of women. There's a tape where he said something that I'm not sure that I can repeat on TV. So
but do you
I
think
believe
every woman who makes an allegation is telling the truth?
I believe these allegations. And regardless, I think we should just take
Al
the politics
Franken said
out
the
of
allegations
it.
of him are
I think Al Franken should be out of the Senate.
He said the allegations
against
him are false.
I think that Al Franken should be out of the Senate.
No due process.
I believe those allegations. I believe the allegations against Donald Trump. I think that sexual harassment, sexual assault is just not something we should play politics with.
I just want to
do it, you're out.
I want to understand these new rules. If a woman makes an allegation, a man does not really have a right to defend himself and does not have a right to be heard in a fair and reasoned process.
I think at the very least, if you are on tape
10 years,
admitting to
20
the
years,
allegations, then we can trust them.
Well, he's not admitting to it. He's not. That's
I
a
mean,
false
again,
way of
you know what he said. I'm not sure that I could repeat it.
But that's a false way of characterizing it. You know,
Laura,
go ahead.
Laura, this is the hypocrisy of the left. You know, Al Franken not only admitted to it, but we have photographic evidence that he's groping women while they're asleep. And then he says, well, these accusations aren't actually true about me, and I'm going to resign. But what day did he say he's going to resign? Because I don't see it. He's still sitting there every day. So what is the day that Al Franken is leaving the Senate? And where is the call from his colleagues to walk away? What day is this going to happen?
Well, I don't think. I have a feeling that Al Franken may not leave the Senate. I think now that Doug Jones is in there, I mean, maybe he will, maybe he won't. But, my friends, we have a lot to get to. And a picture, by the way, is worth 1,000 words. Kirsten Gillibrand, turns out, had no problem palling around with Bill Clinton or Harvey Weinstein for years. Ted Kennedy, I'm sure, before that.
Okay.
Well, now she's suddenly the moral conscience of the Senate? Wait, but her crusade to topple the president on old allegations of sexual improprieties has suddenly hit a roadblock. Well, the president is fighting back. He tweeted this: lightweight Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, someone who would come to my office begging for campaign contributions not long ago, would do would do anything for them, is now in the ring fighting against Trump. Very disloyal to Bill and crooked. Used. Did he run out of characters on the tweet? Crooked. Is that what
280 isn't enough.
Is that I just want to know the lingo. Is she now just crooked? All right. Well, this forced Gillibrand to trot out this old trope.
It was certainly just a sexist smear intended to silence me, and I'm not going to be silenced on this issue. I think President Trump is wrong. He is a bully, and he's been attacking different people across this country since he's been president.
Naturally, Gillibrand's media allies are rushing in to rescue the damsel in distress by attacking the female members of the president's family.
And the women around him, his wife, who has a platform against cyberbullying, that's a joke. That is the saddest thing I've ever seen in this White House, ever in my life. And his daughter, who came to Washington to work for the president and develop a platform for women, go home. Go home. You're doing nothing if you stand by this president.
What happened to girl power? This is feminist solidarity? Okay, well, if you don't agree with liberals, you're just completely out of the game. You have to just go home. Bake cookies? I don't know. In studio is Harmeet Dillon, a former vice chairman of the Republican Party of California. And in Portland, we're joined by Democratic strategist Marcy Stetch. All right, ladies. Harmeet, let's start with you. Kirsten Gillibrand is a senator from New York. She used to actually be a kind of a conservative Democrat on immigration, on gun rights. She moved to Long Island. Suddenly, she's a different person, but that's neither here nor there. So Gillibrand is going to stand up for women. But then suddenly, after she says Trump should resign, he hits back, just like he said about Mitt Romney, by the way. He got on his knees and begged me. Same thing he said to Romney. And now it's, oh, my gosh, this is sexism. Is that sexism, Harmeet?
Well, I mean, I have to give it to Kirsten Gillibrand. She has done an amazing job as a chameleon to evolve from KKG sorority sister at Dartmouth, one of the beautiful people there on campus, to gun-loving Democrat from upstate New York, to now one of the far-left members of the Senate. And, you know, this is all very calculated, Laura. She obviously set out this tweet knowing the president's predilection for fighting back, and he took the bait. He did fight back, and now she's troped, as you said, into this victim mentality. And it's so tiresome to hear women, strong women, one of the most powerful women in America, the people in one of the most exclusive clubs in the world, to say all of a sudden she's a victim. I mean, you know, it really defies belief, and I'm disappointed as a woman. I mean, you would like to see her stand up and give as good as she gets, but that's not what she's doing. And you know what else is interesting, Laura? If you Google Trump and Gillibrand today, she's already got the SEO optimization going. The number one thing that comes up is, you know, I'm fighting back against Trump, and, you know, donate here.
Yeah.
So this whole thing was set up.
Yeah, she's running for president in 2020,
absolutely.
Right? I mean, Marcy, let's go to you on this. I mean, Gillibrand is very politically ambitious. That's fine. She's without a doubt going to run for president. I think this entire thing was choreographed from the beginning, getting rid of Frank and dumping him off the side of the boat so you could try to tag Trump with Roy Moore. And they're probably surprised that Roy Moore won in the end. But how are you standing up as a strong woman? And the second someone comes back and says, basically you're full of it, you're like, oh, this is sexist. Trump said the same thing about Mitt Romney, almost the exact same thing about Mitt Romney.
Well, I think these words take on a different context when we're talking about a man who has been accused of now 20 women of unwanted sexual advances, and that's the current sitting president of the United States, the man who tweeted those words against Kirsten Gillibrand. Now, she and several others have come out to call for his resignation, yet he was the only one who fired off a tweet to her and not to the others. So
she's leading the charge.
Shows that she's being held to
I just want to understand this,
which I think by definition is sexism.
But Marcy, I just want to understand, when you call everything sexism, nothing is sexism. I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, I'm going to be in the arena, I'm just as tough as the guys, and then when the president of the United States says, you know something, I'm calling you know what on you, and then you say, oh, I need all my gal pals to help me, and then demonize Ivanka and demonize Melania because they stand with the person they believe, correct? So they're now enabling Donald Trump. Do you believe that?
Sexism is about being held to a different standard, and that's what we're talking about in this exchange between Senator Gillibrand.
How is she being held to a different standard?
I think that I think it is totally understandable that Trump sees her as a threat.
Nonsense.
I mean, she is everything that he is not. She is compassionate. She is kind. She is qualified, and that is the reason why she's on the list for so many Democrats in 2020.
If you keep talking over me, I'm going to have to cut your mic. Marcy, what I don't understand is why are Democrats so afraid to debate the issues? Harmeet, on immigration, trade. Trump's killing it on trade, on deregulation, on tax reform, which he's going to get before the end of the year. The Democrats are running scared on these issues. They're losing on issue after issue, so they go back to the same old line that they lost the election on in October, which is the old accusers. And I think people are getting weary of it, but Harmeet, and then Marcy can close it out.
Yeah, so Laura, exactly. I mean, this is a shallow and very obvious distraction here. Let's remember Gillibrand's history. She stands hand in hand with the Clinton family and the Clinton crime syndicate in numerous instances. Hillary Clinton is her mentor. She threw Hillary and Bill under the bus in the last couple of months. Al Franken was her colleague. She's thrown him under the bus expeditiously. And Donald Trump is a person who's given her 3 or 4 campaign contributions. He gave her contributions as a member of the Congress running for her second race, and a couple of times in her special election to become a United States senator. And how conveniently has she thrown him under the bus?
All right, Marcy, yeah, I think you painted that narrative. Marcy, we're out of time, but should she give her contributions she got from the Clintons, all the money she raised with them, back? Or to charity? Should she do that?
No, I think Senator Gillibrand should do exactly what she's doing, which is using her voice to advocate for the millions of women around the country who feel marginalized by this president.
Keep the money from the guy who was accused of raping someone. That's not a double standard. All right, guys, I appreciate it. You know, sometimes Republicans are their own worst enemies. And some want to give away the farm on some issues where they don't really need to, such as DACA, or kind of like a Dreamer amnesty light. I'll debate a member of Congress on this issue, and it's important. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay right here. Above all else, President Trump was elected on one clear issue: stop illegal immigration. And that would mean build the wall, no amnesty, you know the drill. But there are some Republicans in Congress, including the guy right here, who still believes that the DACA amnesty thing is a winning idea. And one of them, of course, is here to defend that, and that's Scott Taylor from the 2nd District of Virginia. Congressman, it's great to see you, first of all.
It's good.
Great to have you here.
Sure.
Now, you wrote a letter to Paul Ryan. 34 your fellow congressmen signed it. And in this letter, you say it's an important agenda item now to give these 800,000 people brought here as young people amnesty. Why is that? Of all the things that we have to deal with in our country, why are you so obsessed with catering to the needs of illegal immigrants?
Well, thank you for having me. Of course, congratulations on your show. You used 2 words that I completely take issue with. Number one is amnesty, right? But let me preface this by saying I was at the White House a couple days ago, and my position is basically my personal position. Now, I can't speak for everybody that's on the letter because there's different opinions and stuff like that and where they want to be with this. But for me personally, I'm with the president. I think what President Obama did was illegal. I think it's under congressional purview. When him pushing it down there, I agree with that 100%. I'm with, I supported more money already, more money than over a decade for Homeland, $1.5 billion in appropriations for the wall.
But that's what they tried to do with the Gang of Eight thing, and that didn't fly.
Not for the. I don't care about that. But for that, Kate's Law, all those things, I think we should get more security. I think we should get E-Verify. I think we should have a program, of course, for.
Are you against chain migration?
Yes.
So are you for the RAISE Act?
Yeah, I actually am. I do.
Then why are you?
Let me finish.
Okay, but I'm trying to understand why are you?
I know, but you're not letting me finish.
Pushing this?
I'm not obsessed.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. Let me finish what I'm saying. I'm for all those things. I think we should move towards merit. I think we should have a program for unaccompanied minors to get them back safely back to their parents. That should be in conjunction with dealing with this population. Amnesty, by definition, as you very well know, is basically giving forgiveness for people who have offended.
All right, this
is
Chuck Schumer's line.
I'm not Chuck Schumer. Don't put me in that position, please.
No, but Scott, there's a
reason. The president
Ali PAC is against you. Why? Ali PAC.
I don't even know who Ali PAC is.
Ali PAC is the organization that is for legal immigration. They put you on the top of their list as the Republican that is most pushing the amnesty for the DACA recipients without real strings attached. Yeah, you throw.
That's
some more
complete
money.
crap. That is complete. Let me.
I know you'll
finish.
throw more money at border security.
No. That is complete crap. I'm not for the DREAM Act. I'm not for that. I am for a standalone thing that gets more security and more disincentives for illegal immigration in conjunction with dealing with this population. Let me say something. You have these groups out there who are pushing that, who raise money, who have hundreds of thousands of dollars in salaries for their people, like Numbers USA and these other organizations that raise money off Republican donors to attack other Republicans. I'm not for that. I'm not for that position. In fact, like I said, I was with the White House, and you're going to hear.
You called President Trump's rhetoric divisive, and you blamed him in part for blowing the Virginia race. Did you not on CNN? I just watched the clip like 5 minutes ago.
I will absolutely say to you, as I did before.
Virginia now is a blue state.
I don't agree with you.
You know it as I know it.
I don't agree with you.
Oh, really?
No,
Northern Virginia, expanding government? Demographic changes?
You want me to answer your questions, or you want to keep stepping on me? I do not think that Virginia is a perpetual blue state. I think it is there. And I think if we're going to say that Bob McDonnell's election in 2009 was a referendum on Obama's policy, which I agree, we have to be intellectually honest. And certainly the national scene contributes to the rise in Democrat turnout all across. That's true.
Well, Gillespie was a New Jersey guy who was a Bushite. He tried to do the latter-day populism. It didn't work. He ran before. It didn't work.
He can't beat Trump. He's not Trump. There's no question about that.
But you still think President Trump is divisive?
I think he can be divisive. Sure, I think the polls show that. I support the president.
For the wall, right?
I support the president, and I support more money for the wall. You've been saying that you support the president in many segments. However, his position's like mine on immigration. It's the same.
American people before the illegal immigrants, and you'll win your next primary.
I'm pro-American. I'm an American dreamer.
Stay with us. We're all dreamers first. We frequently give the establishment media a hard time on the angle for good reason. But kudos to the Washington Post fact-checkers for calling out late-night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel. The Post's Glenn Kessler took Kimmel to the woodshed for botching the facts in an emotional plea on behalf of the CHIP program. On his Monday night program, Kimmel brought out his young son, who suffers from a heart condition, to bolster his case. Very cute. CHIP is the children's health insurance program, one that Kimmel used to push his anti-Republican narrative.
Now CHIP has become a bargaining chip. It's on the back burner while they work out their new tax plans, which means parents of children with cancer and diabetes and heart problems are about to get letters saying their coverage could be cut off next month. Merry Christmas, right?
Not so fast, Jimmy. Kessler wrote in the Post, Kimmel falsely suggests that CHIP has become a bargaining chip as part of negotiations over the tax plan. It's actually part of the usual year-end negotiations in Congress. Few lawmakers are really against CHIP. The question is how to fund it. But, of course, that didn't stop Kimmel from making a wild suggestion that Republicans are just ecstatic about killing kids for Christmas.
It's always had bipartisan support, but this year they let the money for it expire while they work on getting tax cuts for their millionaire and billionaire donors.
Rungo, again. Kessler schools Kimmel in noting that chip funding is completely unrelated to tax legislation. Leave it to the pros, Jimmy. And in fact, the GOP-led House passed a bill reauthorizing chip, with most Democrats voting against it because of how it might affect Obamacare. So if you want to point the finger, Jimmy, point it at the Democrats. And by the way, Kimmel's a millionaire who doesn't need CHIP or any other program to provide health care for his beautiful child. Shut up and sing, or shut up and act, or shut up and make us laugh every now and then, I once advised entertainers. So to Jimmy, just stick to the shtick. We'll be right back. Okay, thanks for putting up with me tonight. I'm a little under the weather, but Christmas, mere 12 days away. So getting all that gift shopping done, looking around, going online. Come on, just grab a copy of Billionaire at the Barricades. The Populist Revolution from Reagan to Trump. You will love it. It will make you laugh, smile, cry at moments. Very emotional. And you can always reach me at Ingraham on Twitter and on Facebook. Listen to me on the radio in the morning. And Shannon Bream and the Fox News at Night team are up next. They have a phenomenal show, as always, on tap. I was watching last night, Shannon, during the Alabama fallout, and it was fantastic. And Miss Shannon is up next.